Well, hello there. Hey, it's good to have you in my office. I'm here in Ashland, Oregon, right down near the California border. And if you were here, we'd pour a cup of coffee. Or maybe we'd walk down to Louie's, a place where we tape a television program week to week. What I want for us to think about today is an idea that came to me probably 4 years ago. And it's about the nation of Israel being confined to Egypt for 400 years. Sometimes people look at this, just from discussing this with people, they look at it as something other than what it really was. It was a good thing. Confinement in Egypt was a good thing. Now, it started off this way. Joseph said to his brothers, I have a dream, this reoccurring dream that the sun, the moon, and the stars, 11 stars, bow down to me. And his family said, wow, we must be talking about mom and dad and 11 boys. You're number 12. 11 boys bowing down to you. Yeah, that's right. Well, that actually comes about. It actually comes about. You wouldn't think so, because one day when his brothers are out watching the sheep way out in the country, his father sends him down there to see how the boys are doing. And they say to one another, here comes that dreamer, let's kill him. Well, to make a long story short, instead of killing him, they end up selling him. And where does he go? Into Egypt. He's down there in a dungeon because he's been charged with something falsely. And I wish I could tell you all of those things. But he's in a dungeon, and he reads the dreams of two men who are in prison with him. And because one of those men is the cupbearer for the Pharaoh, when the Pharaoh's having a dream, they bring Joseph out of prison, and Joseph interprets the dream. The dream is that there are 7 fat cows that come up out of the Nile River. That's what the Pharaoh says. I keep seeing 7 fat cows, followed by 7 skinny cows. And as a result of God's helping Joseph interpret those dreams and telling the Pharaoh, those are 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 skinny years, just like the dream was 7 fat cows and then 7 skinny cows that ate the fat cows. You're going to have 7 good years followed by 7 bad years. And the Pharaoh sees that this man is priceless. And so he says, you're in charge of what we do with our agriculture. Well, they end up saving 20% of the crop every year for 7 years. So that when they move into the second 7 years, they will still have something. Well, Joseph's family ends up in that second 7 years moving down into Egypt as guests. Now, somewhere between when those 70 people moved in there as guests and Moses, somewhere in there, their numbers are so many that a new Pharaoh says, we need to put these people to work, forced labor. And here they are, slaves. They're slaves in Egypt. For how many years? I don't know. They're there for 400 years. Many of those are years of slavery. And when Joseph's brothers had come down into Egypt to see him, they were afraid because they thought this was a horrible thing that he'd been this slave in Egypt, that he'd been brought down there that way. And he said this to them, and I want you to remember this. Joseph said, you didn't send me down here, God did. This wasn't your doing, this was God's doing. So what was God doing? What was he doing? What were these 400 years about? Well, what if God had said to Abraham, Abraham, I'm going to give you the land of promise. Go get it. Oh, an old man, 100 years old? What's he going to do when he gets there? What if he had 10 men, 20 men, 50, 60, 100? So what happens is God develops a mass of people, perhaps 1 million, maybe more. They're there in Egypt and they're working hard. In fact, I want to tell you this. The Bible says that when Moses came to deliver the people, the Pharaoh even then made people who were building clay bricks, he made them make not more, but he made them make them with stubble, straw, stick, that he would no longer provide. So the old men and the old women, they're going out in the highways and the byways, and they're gathering sticks and grass and whatever they used for stubble. And you know what the Bible says? It says that when they left Egypt, there was not a feeble one among them. Unwittingly, Pharaoh had put the Hebrew people through a national physical fitness program. So in this incubator, this synthetic environment where they didn't have to worry about developing an army or government or raising taxes, all they had to do was work, reproduce, and become strong. And when the time was right, God would deliver them out and they'd head for the land of promise. Egypt was an incubator. I say it again, a synthetic environment where God could develop a people ready to go and take the land of Canaan. There you have it, an incubator. Not a bad idea.